Government is threatening to withhold feeding grants and teacher trainee allowances to colleges of education across the country if they admit students beyond the quota set for them. The Ghana Tertiary Education Commission, in a letter addressed to principals of colleges of education, directed the schools to admit a defined number of students for the 2022-2023 academic year. We have been joined on Zoom by Jonathan Junu, National President of the Teacher Trainees Association of Ghana, to explore this. Mr. Junu, what do you make of this directive? Mr. Junu, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of the directive to principals of colleges of education to admit a quota of students?
Thank you very much. I think that the directive to admit students based on the quota, it's something that is very disturbing. If you look at the differences in the numbers, even if you look at the number of students that just came out of the college that has the level 400, about 28,000, and if you look at the total enrollments for this new academic year, it's about 9,000, which means that a lot of people will not be getting the opportunity to go into the colleges and then be trained as teachers. And I think that is very, very much disturbing. And as a country, we really have to sit down and then look at that going forward. It's not something that we should actually encourage. We understand that there is infrastructure deficits in the college, the various colleges, which in a way will make it difficult to bring in more people. But why don't we just maintain the number that we used to admit, so that it will actually hold it there rather than cutting down the number?
I wonder if you're aware that Ghana is seeking an IMF bailout. The government is broke. They can't pay their bills. Does that not explain the reason why they would want to limit their capacity of how many students they actually fund through this process this year?
Yes, it's very true that the country is being rolled on an IMF program, but that also doesn't mean that we should do away with the fact that we need to train more teachers to go out there and then teach children as far as the basic education system is concerned.
Government is unable to employ the numbers that they are training today. There are teachers, nurses sitting at home waiting to be posted because government doesn't have jobs for them. What seems to be, in your mind, the benefit of training large numbers only for them to go and sit at home?
Thank you very much. I think that looking at where you are taking it from, then the conversation shouldn't be that because government is unable to employ people, we shouldn't train more. The fact is that why are we not able to employ more people? Is it because government is unable to pay bills? Is that the understanding? And per this letter, I am sticking to the letter. If you look at the directive, the directive isn't coming because government is saying that they are unable to employ more people. If you read the letter very well, the reason they stated, it's none of this was mentioned inside. So it's very difficult for me right now to lead the conversation on that line.
What reasons were stated from your reading of the letter?
All right, so if you read the letter, the directive was that the quota has been given, and then principals must stick to it because that will inform payment of teacher trainee allowance and then the feeding grant.
Yeah, so no reasons were given.
Yes, these were the two reasons.
So all we have is the simple fact that last year government paid for a certain number. This year they want to pay for a smaller number. Those are the facts we have. So just on the basis of that, would you not imagine that it's simply an affordability issue?
Yes, so like you mentioned, these are the reasons that were given by government. But are we doing away with the fact that we need more teachers out there? You see, we've come to a situation where we actually need to sit down as a country look at what the problems are, and then find a solution. I believe that if we have issues of accommodating the students, all of them on campus, then we have to create a system where some students or some parents will agree that, okay, we have a system where the colleges can only take maybe 1,000 people, but if you want your ward to be enrolled, maybe you would have to seek accommodation for the students somewhere. We have to think around the issue this way so that we don't reduce the intake. Well, when we do that, we are denying people the opportunity to go to be enrolled into the colleges and then be trained as teachers.
Okay. So what are some of the suggestions that you have so far communicated to government on this?
Of course, on this, we are, the decision came just recently. We are making preparations to meet government on it and then suggest ways to them going forward, which we would like to meet them before we put the issues in the public space.
Yeah, so I suppose you could share some of those suggestions with us.
Yes, that's what I have mentioned earlier on, that one of them is the fact that we can open the system where some parents would have to agree that, look, if there's a number we can take only 1,000 people. So if you want your ward to come in, maybe you'd have to be able to pay for his or her accommodation so that that student wouldn't be in the boarding system because the boarding system is full. These are one of the ways. Or you would have to agree that, okay, if I'm coming in, then I would have to pay for fees. That's another option. And the rest, like I said, I don't put all the solutions out there until we meet stakeholders and make it known to them.
If government suggests the scrapping of allowances, just so that they can take in more students, would you go with that?
I think that on the issue of teacher trainee allowance over the period, government has never mentioned that it's one of the reasons why they cannot take more people until we get to that stage where government will come out to say, this is the reason we can't pay teacher trainee allowance. And it's one of the reasons why we can't take more. I don't think it's advisable we even go on with that conversation.
But I think
you and I, we've heard from government.
I think between you and I and the public, we can still have a realistic conversation. And that realistic conversation cannot exclude the matter of cost. It costs a lot for the government to pay teacher and nurse trainee allowances. It costs a lot. So if government says, look, this quota thing is a cost issue, the solution is to cut costs, we propose the scrapping of the allowances so that we can take in more, what would your position be as a leader?
So until we get to that stage where government comes out to say this is a decision we are taking, it will be very difficult for me to give an opinion on something that doesn't exist. So until we get to that stage, and then opinions will be coming in. And as we speak, government has never mentioned to us as the student leadership or to the populace that this is a situation they are facing. So it will be very difficult for me to be assuming for government and saying that, okay, if you come in with this decision, this is how we are going to respond to it. Until we get to that stage, it will be very difficult for us to take a decision.
So what you're telling us and your members is that as leaders, you haven't anticipated this possibility. You don't have any contingency plan for such an eventuality.
Of course, we are leaders that things ahead and then possibly look at things that will be happening in the future. But you see, even if we have taken a decision on this issue, it's very difficult for us to communicate it out there until the government comes out to say, this is our position, or this is the decision we want to take. It will be very difficult for us to be saying that, okay, government, this is what we are thinking. And then based on that, you should also think this way. No. What we know right now and what has been communicated to us is the fact that government says we are able to pay the teacher trainees allowance, they believe in the payment of the allowance. So that is what we are, that's the path we are charting now. Until it changes, it will be very difficult for me to make any decision. We may think that, okay, this may happen in the future. So what if I come out to say something and that doesn't happen?
Right. So you suggested earlier that maybe one of the solutions could be that new entrants could pay for their own accommodation, for example, pay their own fees. Would you go further and suggest that new entrants perhaps should find their own allowance?
Yeah, of course, if this is becoming a decision that we all have to take as a country in making sure that we shoot up the numbers, we maintain the numbers, it's laudable. I remember we went for a program somewhere around somewhere June, July on this same issue on how to promote teacher education. These were some of the solutions that came in, and at that program, there were people from the ministry, GTech, the colleges, we were all there, and these were some of the suggestions that even came up.
Okay, and you say that's laudable, right?
And then my expectation, or what we were expecting, is that if for anything, the numbers should have been maintained. Because if you look at the new enrollments, the figures that have been given is around 9,000. And if you look at the people that have gone out, I mean, about 400 that just went out, it's around 28,000. So you can see a very big difference in numbers.
Right. So it would be laudable for new entrants to be asked to find their own allowance, as long as you existing trainees continue to get allowances. It would seem we have lost the national president of the Trainees Association. All right.